Insecurity is one of the greatest thieves of human potential, and it hides itself in such clever disguises that most people never recognize its true nature. It does not come to you and say, "I am insecurity, and I will stop you." Instead, it whispers in your own voice. It cloaks itself as caution, humility, or realism, and it convinces you that its words are your own. Insecurity tells you that you are not ready, that you are not capable, that you are unworthy. And the tragedy is not that people hear these lies, it is that they believe them. Most men and women do not live the lives they could because they have accepted a counterfeit identity forged by their insecurities rather than the truth of who they really are. If you look around, you will see it everywhere. In the hesitant man who never starts the business he dreamed of, in the woman who holds back her ideas in meetings, in the countless souls who settle for mediocrity while convincing themselves they are being responsible. Insecurity is not a reflection of reality. It is a lie told to you so often with such persistence that it begins to feel like truth. But today I want to tell you something with all the weight of truth behind it. Your insecurity is lying to you. We know this because history itself is littered with examples of men and women who had no more advantages than you, who began in worse conditions yet rose to the heights of power, wealth, and greatness simply because they refused to bow to that inner voice of doubt. Consider the farmer who becomes an industrialist, the immigrant who arrives with nothing and builds an empire, the writer who faced rejection after rejection yet persisted until the world could no longer ignore him. Were they somehow exempt from insecurity? Of course not. They felt it, they heard it, but they did not bow to it. And this is the difference between the few who achieve greatness and the many who remain trapped in ordinary lives. The voice of insecurity is universal, but the decision to obey it is optional. That decision to bow or to rise is made in silence, often in the quiet of your own thoughts, and it is that decision that will determine the entire direction of your life. You must understand, insecurity is not an oracle. It is not a prophecy of what you cannot do. It is a liar, and the sooner you recognize it as such, the sooner you can begin to silence it. Now you may be wondering, if insecurity is a lie, why does it feel so convincing? Why does it seem so real when it rises up in your chest, when it fills your mind with reasons to hesitate? The answer is simple. Insecurity feeds on memory and imagination, the very tools that make us human. It takes the failures of your past, magnifies them, and tells you they are proof of your limits. It takes your imagination, the same imagination capable of building bridges, businesses, and civilizations, and it turns it against you, painting a vivid picture of every way you might fail. Insecurity is not strong on its own. It has no power to create. It only borrows power from you, from your memory and imagination, and uses them as weapons against your own progress. But here is the truth. You can turn those same tools against it. Memory can recall your victories just as easily as your failures. Imagination can paint the picture of your triumphs just as vividly as your defeats. The difference lies in where you focus, and that focus is entirely under your control. This is why the battle against insecurity is fought and won in the mind before it is ever expressed in the world. And this is why your thoughts must be guarded with the same vigilance that a general guards the gates of a city. If you let any idea walk freely into your mind, you will soon find yourself under siege. But if you discipline yourself to choose what thoughts may dwell there, you will soon discover that insecurity loses its hold. You cannot prevent insecure thoughts from appearing, but you can decide whether they take root. You can say, "This is not true, this does not belong to me," and you can replace it with a higher thought, a truer law. Just as a field cannot produce both wheat and weeds when it is carefully cultivated, so too the mind cannot harbor insecurity and confidence when it is diligently guarded. The seeds you allow to grow will determine your harvest. Let me pause here and tell you something important. If this message is resonating with you, if you recognize even a fragment of your own life in what I've described, then I want to ask you for something simple. Subscribe to this message, whether that means subscribing on this platform or subscribing in your own mind. Make a decision right now that you will not let this be another idea that passes by. Decide that you will put this into practice, that you will use this truth to change your life. Because nothing is more tragic than hearing a truth that could free you, only to nod and forget it. Take this seriously. Write it down. Speak it out loud. Commit yourself to action. Because insecurity thrives in vague intentions, but it dies under precise decisions. And now I want to share with you a law that, if you will ingrain it into your mind, will begin to transform the way you see yourself and your circumstances. Say it out loud with me. Write it on paper in bold letters. Reflect on it each morning until it becomes second nature. The law is this: I am one with strength and confidence, free of fear, free of doubt. Let that settle into you. Say it again, not with a whisper but with conviction. Because words spoken with conviction carve grooves in the mind, and those grooves become the pathways through which your thoughts flow. Repeat it until it feels natural, until it feels undeniable. Because the truth is that you are not bound by insecurity, you are bound only by your belief in its lies. Break that belief and the chains fall away. The great tragedy of most lives is not that they aimed high and missed, it is that they aimed low and hit. Insecurity encourages you to aim low because it knows that if you aim too high, you will grow. It wants you to play small, to think small, to live small, because smallness is safe, but there is nothing safe about playing small. In fact, it is the most dangerous decision you can make. A man who plays small shrinks until he can no longer recognize himself. A woman who hides her gifts eventually believes she has none. Playing small does not protect you, it destroys you slowly, invisibly, until you wake up one day wondering what happened to your life. Do not let this happen to you. Recognize the lie for what it is and refuse to give it power. If you are willing to see insecurity as the lie it truly is, then you are already ahead of most of the world. You are no longer asleep. You are no longer living as a puppet of doubt. You have taken the first step toward reclaiming your mind, and by doing so, you have taken the first step toward reclaiming your life. But let this not be where you stop. Recognition is the beginning, not the end. You must go further. You must discipline yourself to confront insecurity each time it rises, to replace its lies with truths, to ingrain those truths so deeply that they become the very rhythm of your thoughts. This is the daily work of freedom, and it is work that will repay you with dividends greater than any stock or property could ever provide. Because what you are building here is not merely confidence in a superficial sense. You are building identity. You are constructing a self that stands unmoved, a self that insecurity cannot penetrate. And once you have that identity, opportunities begin to open in ways you could not have predicted. The person who walks without insecurity speaks with authority, acts with clarity, and inspires trust. Others can sense it. They are drawn to it, they follow it. This is not arrogance, it is alignment with truth, and the world recognizes truth when it sees it. So let us close this part with the same law we spoke earlier, and I encourage you once more to speak it with full conviction. I am one with strength and confidence, free of fear, free of doubt. Write it, say it, believe it, let it become part of you. Because this is not merely a phrase, it is a declaration of war against the lie of insecurity. It is the planting of a new seed in the fertile soil of your mind, and what you plant there will grow. Start now, for the rest of your life will be determined by what you believe today. Insecurity does not only lie to you about who you are, it also lies to you about what is possible. It paints ceilings where there are none. It constructs invisible walls in the mind and convinces you that they are made of steel. Yet if you take even one bold step forward, you discover they are nothing but smoke. Think of the man who never approaches the woman he admires because he has convinced himself she will reject him. He lives years in the shadow of that belief, only to one day realize she would have welcomed his approach. Think of the young entrepreneur who carries an idea in his mind for a decade but never acts, believing the world would not accept it. Then he watches another man act on the same idea and become wealthy beyond imagination. The walls were never real. They existed only in his imagination, enforced by the lie of insecurity. That is the quiet devastation insecurity brings, not always by open defeat, but by silent delay. It robs you not by taking away your abilities, but by convincing you never to use them. And here is the subtle cruelty. Insecurity often dresses itself as prudence. It will tell you, be careful, be realistic, wait until the perfect time. But understand this, prudence is based on truth, insecurity is based on fear. Prudence considers facts, insecurity invents excuses. Prudence takes action with wisdom, insecurity avoids action altogether. And most people cannot tell the difference. They think they are being prudent when in reality they are simply being afraid. And because fear feels safe, they never question it. But let me ask you this, what has fear ever built? What skyscraper stands because someone was too afraid to act? What business thrives because someone waited until conditions were perfect? What life has ever been transformed by hesitation? None. The truth is, every meaningful step forward in human history was taken not because the person was free of insecurity, but because he refused to obey it. This is why you must begin to test the voice of insecurity each time it speaks. You must ask, is this truth or is this fear? Is this prudence or is this hesitation? And in that simple act of questioning, you break its spell. You expose the illusion for what it is. Remember this, insecurity relies on blind obedience. The moment you question it, you weaken it, and the moment you act in spite of it, you destroy it. This is why I tell people again and again that the cure for insecurity is not more thinking, it is action. Because while insecurity can argue with your thoughts all day long, it cannot argue with results. It may say you cannot do this, but the moment you do it, the lie collapses. That is why the fastest way to silence insecurity is to do precisely the thing it says you cannot do. Now here is a law I want you to ingrain deeply in your mind. Write it on paper. Say it out loud with me. The law is this: action is the enemy of insecurity. Say it again. Let it become a principle you carry with you wherever you go. Because when you act, you generate proof, and proof silences lies. You need not wait until you feel confident to take action. Confidence comes after action, not before. The man who acts boldly appears confident, but he did not wait for confidence. He acted while trembling, and the action itself produced the confidence. You will discover the same truth in your own life when you begin to practice it. One of the gravest mistakes people make is believing that insecurity will vanish with age or experience. They think, once I have achieved more, once I am older, once I am recognized, then the insecurity will go away. But insecurity does not evaporate with time, it only grows stronger if left unchallenged. In fact, many men and women in their later years look back and realize they lived as prisoners to insecurity for decades. They never applied for that opportunity, never asked for that promotion, never pursued that dream because insecurity whispered you cannot, and so they lived in a prison of untapped potential, all while holding the key in their pocket. Let this not be your story. Do not wait for insecurity to fade away with time. It will not. It must be confronted and conquered today by conscious choice, by deliberate action, by repetition of truth. I want you to understand something vital. Insecurity thrives in silence. It grows stronger when you never speak against it, when you never challenge its claims. That is why affirmations, laws spoken aloud with conviction are so powerful. They are not magic, they are discipline. They are the act of speaking truth louder than the lies in your mind until the lies lose their grip. So let us declare another law together right now. Say it boldly, write it down, and repeat it until it becomes part of your nature. I am bold in action. I trust myself to act decisively. Let it echo in your mind. Let it replace hesitation with motion, because it is motion that kills insecurity and stagnation that feeds it. Consider this. Every person you admire has faced insecurity. Every leader, every entrepreneur, every artist, every athlete. What separates them from the masses is not that they never doubted themselves, but that they acted in spite of doubt. They did not wait to be free of insecurity before moving forward. They moved forward, and in the process, they became free. And if you follow their example, you will find that the very act of stepping into fear dissolves it. Insecurity is a coward. It cannot survive exposure. It thrives only in darkness, in silence, in delay. Drag it into the light of action, and it evaporates. So let me leave you with this final thought for this part. Insecurity is lying to you about what is possible. It tells you the walls are real, but they are not. It tells you the time is not right, but it never will be. It tells you to wait, but waiting has never built anything worth having. The truth is simple, and I want you to ingrain it. Action is the enemy of insecurity. Write it down, say it out loud, repeat it until it becomes instinct. Because once you live by this law, insecurity no longer controls you. You control it, and the life that unfolds from that simple decision will astonish you. Now here is a law I want you to ingrain deeply in your mind. Write it on paper, say it out loud with me. The law is this: action is the enemy of insecurity. Say it again. Let it become a principle you carry with you wherever you go, because when you act, you generate proof, and proof silences lies. You need not wait until you feel confident to take action. Confidence comes after action, not before. The man who acts boldly appears confident, but he did not wait for confidence. He acted while trembling, and the action itself produced the confidence. You will discover the same truth in your own life when you begin to practice it. One of the gravest mistakes people make is believing that insecurity will vanish with age or experience. They think, once I have achieved more, once I am older, once I am recognized, then the insecurity will go away. But insecurity does not evaporate with time. It only grows stronger if left unchallenged. In fact, many men and women in their later years look back and realize they lived as prisoners to insecurity for decades. They never applied for that opportunity, never asked for that promotion, never pursued that dream because insecurity whispered, you cannot, and so they lived in a prison of untapped potential, all while holding the key in their pocket. Let this not be your story. Do not wait for insecurity to fade away with time. It will not. It must be confronted and conquered today by conscious choice, by deliberate action, by repetition of truth. Insecurity does not only attack your thoughts and your actions, it also attacks your identity. It whispers not only that you cannot succeed, but that you are not the kind of person who deserves success. This is perhaps its most dangerous lie, because once you accept it, you no longer even try. You believe the opportunities you see belong to someone else, someone smarter, wealthier, more confident, more talented, and so you step back from life as if you were merely a spectator rather than a player. Insecurity convinces you that your role is to clap for others, not to rise with them. But let me remind you of something fundamental. No man or woman ever walked this earth with more inherent worth than you. We all arrive with the same human dignity, the same power of mind, the same capacity for growth. The differences that later appear are not because some were destined to be inferior. They exist because some accepted the lies of insecurity and others refused to. Your identity is not the sum of your fears. Your identity is the sum of your choices, and every choice to reject insecurity strengthens the foundation of who you really are. And here is where many people stumble. They confuse humility with insecurity. They think that believing in themselves, speaking boldly, or acting with confidence is arrogance. But true humility is not thinking less of yourself, it is thinking of yourself less. It is using your gifts without apology, not hiding them under the pretense of being modest. Insecurity will masquerade as humility and convince you that hiding is noble. But there is nothing noble about refusing to use what God has given you. There is nothing virtuous about burying your talents in the ground. That is not humility, it is fear in disguise. And if you allow it, insecurity will rob not only you, but also the people who might have benefited from your contribution. Think of the ideas never shared, the songs never sung, the businesses never started, simply because someone thought, "Who am I to try?" The world suffers when people believe that lie, and you must decide today never to believe it again. You must come to see insecurity as a parasite that feeds on your sense of self. It thrives when you define yourself by your failures. It thrives when you compare yourself to others. It thrives when you measure your worth by titles, possessions, or recognition. And it shrinks when you define yourself by something higher, something immovable, something eternal. If your identity is grounded only in achievements, then insecurity will whisper every time you stumble. But if your identity is grounded in truth, that you are a human being capable of growth, that you possess a mind that can create and a spirit that can endure, then insecurity has nothing to grip. The storms may come, but you will not be moved because your roots run deeper than circumstance. This is why the greatest antidote to insecurity is to know who you are at the deepest level, beyond roles, beyond possessions, beyond recognition. So let me give you a law that will anchor you when insecurity attacks your sense of self. Say it with me now and write it down where you will see it each day. I am worthy of success. I am capable of greatness. I am enough as I am. Repeat it until the words sink in, not because repetition is magic, but because repetition is how the mind learns. Just as insecure thoughts repeated for years became ingrained, so too will this truth take root if you speak it long enough. And once it takes root, your actions will begin to reflect it. You will stop shrinking back. You will stop questioning your worth. You will step into the opportunities before you because you will finally see yourself as worthy of them. Think of a mirror. If the glass is cracked, every reflection is distorted. Insecurity cracks the mirror of your self-image, so that no matter what is reflected, achievement, recognition, love, it looks distorted. You cannot see clearly, so you assume the problem is reality rather than the crack. But the problem is not the world around you. The problem is the lens through which you see yourself. Repair that lens and suddenly everything looks different. What once seemed impossible now feels within reach. What once looked like rejection now feels like redirection. What once felt like failure now feels like a stepping stone. The mirror of your self-image must be whole, and it becomes whole when you refuse to believe the lies of insecurity about who you are. Understand this? The identity you accept becomes the life you live. If you accept the identity of a person who is always behind, always less, always undeserving, then your life will reflect that. But if you accept the identity of a person who is worthy, capable, and equal to any challenge, then your life will rise to meet it. Identity precedes destiny. You cannot live beyond the image you hold of yourself. And this is why insecurity is so ruthless in attacking your identity. It knows that if it can convince you of a false identity, it will never need to stop you again. You will stop yourself. But if you claim the truth of who you are, insecurity loses its grip forever. Now pause and consider, who do you believe yourself to be? Do you see yourself as strong, capable, resilient, Or have you allowed insecurity to convince you that you are weak, incapable, destined to struggle? The answer to that question is shaping your entire life. And here is the good news: you can change the answer today. You can decide right now that your identity will no longer be determined by fear, by doubt, or by comparison. You can decide that your identity will be anchored in truth. That decision alone is enough to begin transforming everything. So let us close this part by declaring once again the law we spoke earlier. Say it with conviction. Write it boldly. Speak it daily until it becomes the rhythm of your being. I am worthy of success. I am capable of greatness. I am enough as I am. This is not wishful thinking. This is the truth that insecurity has tried to bury under years of lies. But the truth is stronger than the lie if you will give it voice. Plant it now, nurture it daily, and watch your entire life begin to align with it. Insecurity not only distorts your identity, it also poisons your relationships. It convinces you that you must hide parts of yourself in order to be accepted, that you must wear masks in order to be loved, that you must constantly prove your worth to others. And when you live this way, you are never truly known and you never truly connect. Insecurity isolates you, even in a crowded room. You may smile, you may nod, you may perform, but beneath it all is the gnawing fear that if people saw the real you, they would turn away. And so you begin to build walls, not to keep others out, but to keep your fear hidden within. Yet here is the irony: those very walls that you believe are protecting you are the same walls that prevent intimacy, trust, and love. Insecurity tells you that people would not accept you if they knew you fully, when in truth, the only way to be accepted is to be known. In this way, insecurity does not only lie to you, it robs you of the very thing you crave most: connection. And it doesn't stop there. Insecurity turns relationships into battlegrounds of comparison. Instead of celebrating others, you compete with them. Instead of drawing inspiration, you feel threatened. Someone else's success becomes your failure, and someone else's recognition becomes your rejection. This mindset corrodes trust, fuels jealousy, and drives wedges where bridges should be built. Look around and you will see it everywhere. Families divided by competition, friendships poisoned by envy, partnerships weakened by suspicion. The truth is that insecurity makes it impossible to genuinely celebrate anyone else because it interprets their rise as your fall. But life is not a zero-sum game. Their success does not diminish your potential. Their abundance does not rob you of yours. The world is not divided into winners and losers by some cosmic decree. It is divided by those who listen to insecurity and those who silence it. Consider how insecurity damages leadership. A leader gripped by insecurity cannot empower others, for he fears being outshined. He withholds opportunities, he micromanages, he undermines because every capable follower feels like a threat. But a leader free of insecurity lifts others, trusts others, and builds teams that grow stronger than himself. One produces resentment, the other produces loyalty. One builds walls, the other builds legacies. And this truth applies not just to formal leadership, but to every relationship you hold. If you allow insecurity to rule you, you will shrink others so you can feel tall. But if you rise above it, you will lift others, and in lifting them, lift yourself higher still. So what is the cure? It is to root your relationships not in fear, but in truth. To approach others not with a need for validation, but with the fullness of your own identity. When you know who you are, you no longer need others to constantly confirm it. You no longer fear being outshined because you understand that another's light does not dim your own. And when you stop competing with everyone around you, you finally discover the joy of connection, the freedom of collaboration, the strength of community. Insecurity isolates, but confidence unites. Insecurity competes, but confidence celebrates. And it is only in the soil of confidence that true relationships can grow. Let us speak another law together, a law that will transform how you approach others. Say it out loud, write it down, and let it shape the way you live. I am secure in who I am, and I celebrate the success of others. Let this become your foundation, because when you can sincerely rejoice in the victories of others, you have escaped the trap of comparison. When you can genuinely applaud another's achievements, you have freed yourself from jealousy. And when you are secure in who you are, you give those around you permission to be secure in themselves. This is how relationships thrive, not in the soil of insecurity, but in the soil of strength. Think for a moment of the people you admire most. Are they insecure? Do they shrink when others succeed? Do they cling desperately to recognition? No, they radiate a sense of ease, of confidence, of generosity. They have no need to diminish others because their worth is already settled. And that is why people are drawn to them. Insecurity repels, confidence attracts. Insecurity divides, confidence unites. If you want deeper relationships, if you want stronger partnerships, if you want to be a leader in any sense of the word, you must conquer insecurity, not only for your own sake, but for the sake of everyone around you. I want you to understand that every time you allow insecurity to dictate your relationships, you are feeding poison into the soil of your life. But every time you confront it, every time you choose to act from truth rather than fear, you are planting seeds of trust, respect, and love. And those seeds, watered with consistency, will grow into connections far richer than anything insecurity could ever allow. You do not need to prove yourself to others. You do not need to earn your worth in their eyes. You only need to stand firm in the truth of who you are, and from that place of strength, extend your hand to others without fear of rejection or competition. So as we close this part, let us speak once again, the law that will free your relationships from the grasp of insecurity. Say it boldly with me now. I am secure in who I am, and I celebrate the success of others. Write it on paper, place it where you will see it often, and remind yourself daily. Because the relationships you long for will not come by proving yourself to others. They will come by being secure in yourself. And when you live from that place, insecurity loses its grip not only on you, but on everyone blessed enough to walk alongside you. Insecurity also lies to you about failure. It convinces you that failure is a final verdict, that one mistake defines your worth, that one setback cancels your future. And so you hesitate, you avoid risks, you remain in the shallow waters of safety because insecurity tells you that sinking once means you will drown forever. But failure is not fatal. Failure is feedback. It is not the end of the road, but the beginning of understanding. The most successful men and women in history did not avoid failure. They encountered it, learned from it, and used it as the raw material of success. Insecurity hides this truth because it wants you paralyzed. It wants you so afraid of stumbling that you never move forward at all. Yet ironically, it is only by stumbling that you learn to walk. It is only by attempting what you cannot yet do that you expand what you are capable of. To fear failure is to fear growth itself, and that fear will keep you imprisoned in mediocrity. Think of Thomas Edison, who famously made thousands of unsuccessful attempts before perfecting the light bulb. Insecurity would have told him to quit after the first 100 failures, to believe he was incapable, to accept defeat, but he did not listen. He understood that every attempt, whether successful or not, was progress. He reframed failure not as evidence of weakness, but as proof of movement, and that mindset, rejecting the lie of insecurity, led to one of the greatest inventions of all time. Or consider Abraham Lincoln, who faced repeated political defeats, personal losses, and crushing setbacks before becoming one of the most revered leaders in history. If he had listened to insecurity, history would not know his name. The difference between these figures and the countless forgotten is not the absence of failure, but the refusal to bow to insecurity's interpretation of failure. They saw it not as an end, but as a stepping stone. Failure, in its truest form, is a mirror that reveals where growth is needed. It shows you what does not work so you can discover what does. Insecurity lies by convincing you that failure shows who you are. But failure does not define identity, it only refines strategy. The man who fails is not a failure. The woman who stumbles is not defeated. They are learners in motion, expanding their capacity, strengthening their character, proving their resilience. The only true failure is to never try, to never risk, to never step beyond the comfortable. And that is precisely what insecurity wants from you. Silence, stagnation, surrender. Do not give it that victory. Understand the truth. Failure is a teacher, and those who listen to it rise higher than those who avoid it. Let us declare a law now that will reframe your entire relationship with failure. Write it down and speak it with me. Failure is feedback. Every loss is a lesson. Every setback is a step forward. Say it until it becomes your default interpretation. Because once you begin to see failure as feedback, the fear of it loses its sting. You stop avoiding challenges. You stop hesitating at the edge of opportunity. You step boldly, knowing that even if you stumble, you are learning, growing, and moving closer to your goal. This law, when internalized, will make you unstoppable, because nothing can defeat a man or woman who refuses to interpret failure as final. Consider the athlete who trains for years, failing in practice thousands of times before achieving mastery in competition. To the insecure, those failures would be proof of inadequacy, but to the secure, they are proof of progress. Every missed shot, every slow run, every mistake is a brick in the foundation of future excellence. The same is true in business, in relationships, in life. Every failure contains the seed of wisdom, and only those who dare to plant it will harvest the fruit. Insecurity blinds you to the seed, confidence allows you to plant it, discipline allows you to water it, and perseverance allows you to reap the harvest. This is the cycle of growth, and it is available to you the moment you stop believing the lie that failure is fatal. Think for a moment about your own life. How many opportunities have you avoided because you feared failure? How many doors did you leave unopened because insecurity convinced you that rejection would be unbearable? And now ask yourself, what would have been possible if you had acted anyway? What could you have learned? Where could you be today if you had dared to fail forward instead of retreating? These are sobering questions, but they are also liberating because they reveal that the only thing holding you back is not failure itself. It is the belief about failure that insecurity planted in your mind. Change that belief and the entire course of your life can change with it. Failure is not your enemy. It is your ally if you will let it be. It is the sharpening stone of resilience, the forge of character, the training ground of greatness. Insecurity hides this because it knows that once you embrace failure, you cannot be stopped. If you no longer fear failure, then nothing can hold you back. You will attempt, you will learn, you will adapt, and you will eventually succeed. This is the simple equation of progress. Attempt, learn, repeat. And the more you repeat it, the more unstoppable you become. Insecurity thrives on your fear of failure, but once you refuse to give it that fear, it starves. So let us close this part with the law once more and let it sink deeply into your spirit. Speak it now, write it boldly, ingrain it until it becomes instinct. Failure is feedback. Every loss is a lesson. Every setback is a step forward. This is not merely a phrase, it is a lens through which to see the world, a shield against insecurity's lies, a torch that lights the path forward. Embrace it, live by it, and you will discover that failure, far from being your downfall, becomes the very foundation of your success. Insecurity also lies to you about time. It convinces you that you have plenty of it, that tomorrow is the day to begin, that one more week or one more year will make conditions perfect. And so you wait. You wait for the right season, the right confidence, the right resources, the right circumstances. Yet the truth is that waiting becomes a habit, and habits shape lives. One day turns into a year turns into a decade, and suddenly a life has passed without ever truly beginning. Insecurity thrives in procrastination, because as long as you are waiting, you are not acting. It whispers, "Not yet," until those two words become the epitaph of dreams never pursued. The tragedy is that most people never fail because they tried and lost. They fail because they never tried at all. And insecurity, disguised as patience, tells them the lie that waiting is wise, when in reality waiting is decay. Time is the one resource that cannot be replaced. You can lose money and earn it again. You can lose possessions and regain them. But once an hour is gone, once a day has passed, it is gone forever. Insecurity never reminds you of this because if you knew how precious time truly is, you would act with urgency. Instead, it lulls you into complacency. It convinces you that your life will begin later, that your best years are somewhere in the distance. But let me tell you a truth you must ingrain. Your life is happening now. Not next year, not after conditions improve, not after fear vanishes, now. And every day you live under the lie of insecurity is a day stolen from your destiny. If you want to change your life, you must claim today, because tomorrow is not promised and yesterday is already gone. All you hold in your hands is the present, and how you use it will determine who you become. Consider the countless men and women who plan to start a business someday, to write a book someday, to pursue their dreams someday. For most, that someday never comes. They die with their potential still inside them, their songs unsung, their ideas unwritten, their inventions unbuilt. Insecurity robbed them, not with dramatic defeat, but with quiet delay. It convinced them that the timing was never right, that one more preparation was always needed, that one more day was always necessary. But perfection is an illusion, and those who wait for it will wait forever. The only perfect time to begin is now, and every person who has ever achieved anything of value has done so not because they felt ready, but because they acted when they were not. Here is a law I want you to declare with me, to write on your paper, to repeat until it becomes the rhythm of your days. I act today. I begin now. I refuse to wait for perfect conditions. Speak it until hesitation loses its grip. Write it until it becomes instinct. Because once you internalize this law, insecurity loses one of its most powerful weapons, the lie of delay. You will discover that action today, no matter how small, is infinitely more powerful than the promise of action tomorrow. A single seed planted now is worth more than 1,000 seeds imagined for later. And once you begin to plant daily, your future harvest becomes inevitable. Think of a farmer who delays planting his field because he fears the rain may not come. or the soil may not be rich enough. While he waits, another farmer plants anyway, trusting that growth will come through persistence. When the season ends, one field is bare, the other is full. The difference is not in the soil, the sun, or the rain. The difference is in the choice to act now rather than wait. Your life is the same. If you wait for conditions to be perfect, your field will remain barren. But if you act now, even imperfectly, you set in motion forces of growth that will carry you to your harvest. Insecurity thrives on the illusion that you have time to waste, but you do not. Every moment you hesitate is a moment of power surrendered. Every day you delay is a day you cannot reclaim. Do not allow insecurity to rob you of your years. Decide today that your time is too valuable to be wasted in waiting. Decide that your life will not be measured in some days, but in actions taken now, because it is not the amount of time you have that matters, it is what you do with the time you hold in your hands this very moment. So let us seal this part with the law once more. Say it out loud, write it in bold. Let it become the command that drives your actions. I-ACT today, I begin now. I refuse to wait for perfect conditions. Let it ring in your mind every morning. Let it guide your choices throughout the day. Let it silence the whispers of insecurity that say, not yet. Because your life is not waiting for you somewhere in the future. It is here. It is now. And the man or woman who seizes today will own tomorrow. Insecurity also lies to you about comparison. It convinces you that your worth can only be measured against the progress of someone else, that your journey is only as valuable as how it stacks up against your neighbors. And so you scroll, you watch, you compare, until your own accomplishments feel small and your own pace feels too slow. But comparison is the thief of joy, and insecurity wields it like a blade. It tells you that because someone else is further ahead, you are behind. It tells you that because someone else shines brighter, your light is dim. It convinces you that life is a race with only one victor, and if they win, you lose. Yet nothing could be further from the truth. Your path is your own, your race is your own, and no one can run it for you or rob you of it. The only way to lose is to stop running. The only way to diminish your worth is to believe the lie that someone else's success subtracts from yours. Think of a forest. Within it are trees of different heights, shapes, and ages. One tree may tower tall, another may bend low, another may still be growing. But no tree looks at the one beside it and thinks, I am less because you are more. Each grows according to its own nature, rooted in its own soil, reaching toward its own share of the sun. And together they form the beauty of the forest. Life is the same. Your pace is not meant to be another's pace. Your timeline is not meant to match another's timeline. You are growing at the speed you were designed to grow. Insecurity wants you to forget this, to believe that your life is defective because it does not look like someone else's. But the truth is that your life, when lived fully, adds a beauty to the world no one else can replicate. And the tragedy is not that you grow differently. It is that you may stop growing altogether because comparison convinced you that your growth did not matter. Consider how many dreams have been abandoned simply because someone saw another living theirs sooner. A young artist puts away her brushes because she sees another selling paintings already. A new entrepreneur closes his idea notebook because he sees another profiting in the same industry. But what if the artist had continued? What if the entrepreneur had persisted? How many gifts, how many breakthroughs, how many contributions to the world have been lost because insecurity, through the weapon of comparison, convinced someone that they were already too late? Let me tell you plainly, you are not late. You are not behind. You are exactly where you need to be to take the next step forward. And the only thing that matters is that you keep stepping. So here is a law that I want you to ingrain into your mind, to speak aloud, to write on your paper until it becomes instinct. I run my own race. I do not compare. I do not compete. I continue to grow. Say it now. Say it again. Because the moment you claim this law, the grip of comparison weakens. You free yourself from the need to measure your worth by another's yardstick. You return to the truth that your race is your responsibility, and that finishing it with strength matters far more than how fast another appears to run. Insecurity thrives on outward glances. It keeps your eyes fixed on the progress of others, so you never notice your own. But the moment you turn your gaze inward on your growth, your progress, your path, it loses power. Growth is not always visible in the short term, just as a seed does not sprout overnight. But the fact that you cannot see it does not mean it is not happening. And the fact that someone else's plant has sprouted before yours does not mean yours will not bloom in its season. Your responsibility is not to compete with their harvest. Your responsibility is to tend your soil, water your seed, and trust that in due time, your growth will manifest. Insecurity hides this truth because it knows that the man or woman who tends faithfully to their own race cannot be stopped. Comparison is also dangerous because it blinds you to gratitude. It convinces you that what you have is worthless because it is not what someone else has, and in doing so, it robs you of the joy of the present. You cannot celebrate the progress you have made when you are too busy envying the progress of another, but gratitude is the antidote. Gratitude shifts your eyes from what you lack to what you hold. Gratitude reminds you that the life you live today was once the dream you prayed for, and when you live in gratitude, insecurity has no foothold. Because you are no longer chasing someone else's path, you are celebrating your own. So let us declare the law once more and let it ring in your spirit. I run my own race. I do not compare. I do not compete. I continue to grow. Write it boldly, speak it daily, because your destiny will not be found in the shadow of another. It will be found in the light of your own journey. And when you live by this truth, insecurity can no longer deceive you with the lie of comparison. You will walk your path with strength, with clarity, and with peace. Insecurity tells you perhaps its greatest lie when it convinces you that your future is already decided, that you are bound by your past mistakes, your current circumstances, or the opinions of others. It whispers that the trajectory of your life is fixed, that no matter what you do, you cannot rise above what has already been written, and so many people live as prisoners of old failures, old labels, old patterns. They let insecurity chain their future to their past, believing that tomorrow will be nothing more than a repeat of yesterday. But this is not the truth. The truth is that your future is not yet built. It is a construction site, and you are the builder. Every thought you think, every word you speak, every action you take is a brick placed in the foundation of what will come. Insecurity hides this truth because it knows that if you recognize the power in your hands, you would begin to build boldly, and nothing could stop you. Consider how many men and women carry the weight of names others placed on them: failure, lazy, average, unworthy, and then proceed to live lives that reflect those names. They did not choose those labels, yet they accepted them, and by acceptance they made them real. But let me tell you this, the labels of the past are not chains unless you continue to wear them. You can drop them today. You can step out of them and into a new identity, one built not on insecurity but on truth. History is full of men and women who were dismissed as nothing, overlooked, underestimated, forgotten, until they rose, disproved every label, and rewrote their destiny. What made the difference was not that they were born exempt from insecurity, but that they refused to let it dictate the terms of their future. Your future bends to the thoughts you repeat. If you fill your mind with the lies of insecurity, then your tomorrow will mirror those lies. But if you fill your mind with laws of truth, then your tomorrow will mirror those truths. This is why affirmations matter, not because they are magic, but because they reprogram your internal compass. They replace the coordinates insecurity gave you with coordinates that lead to strength, confidence, and destiny. The man who repeats, "I am a failure," builds a future of failure. The man who repeats, "I am capable, I am strong, I am enough," builds a future aligned with that truth. You must decide today which future you will construct, for the materials of tomorrow are being laid in your thoughts right now. Here is a final law I want you to ingrain, to speak, to write until it becomes the rhythm of your soul. My future is mine to build. I am not bound by the past. I am not limited by fear. I create my destiny. Say it aloud with me. Write it down in bold letters where your eyes will see it daily. Repeat it until it feels like second nature. Because once this law becomes part of you, insecurity's greatest lie, the lie of inevitability, loses its hold forever. You are not doomed to repeat the past. You are not trapped by circumstance. You are not limited by what others think of you. Your future is yours, and you hold the tools to build it. Think of a ship. Without a rudder, it drifts wherever the wind and waves carry it, but with a rudder it can sail to any destination, no matter how fierce the storm. Insecurity wants you rudderless, tossed by every opinion, every setback, every doubt, but once you claim your rudder, your vision, your truth, your law, you take command of your voyage. The storms may rage, but you will not drift. You will sail with intention, with direction, with confidence, and in time you will arrive at the harbor you have chosen, not the one insecurity tried to assign to you. Now let me leave you with this challenge. Do not let these words remain ideas. Turn them into practice. Take out your paper and write the laws we have spoken. Say them each morning until they are carved into the grooves of your mind. Begin to act in defiance of insecurity each day, in small steps and bold moves alike. Because the difference between those who hear truth and those who are transformed by it is simple: application. Do not merely nod and agree. Rise and act. The victory belongs to those who put the law into motion. So let us speak the final law once more with conviction, with certainty, with the authority of someone who refuses to bow to insecurity again. My future is mine to build. I am not bound by the past. I am not limited by fear. I create my destiny. Carry this with you. Let it ring in your mind. Let it govern your actions. And when insecurity whispers again, as it surely will, answer it with this truth until it falls silent. For your insecurity has been lying to you, but now you know the truth. And the truth, if you will live it, will make you free.